If you find yourself people-pleasing a lot and you want to know how to stop, I want to give you some advice and some tips about how it could be related to a trauma response. Now, most people are conflict avoidant. We don't tend to enjoy having arguments, whether with co-workers or friends or even family members, as common as they may be. And so what we might do in those instances is try and avoid finding ourselves in those sorts of situations. It's quite normal, and not many people enjoy having those sort of outspoken discussions. However, this can be related to the fawning trauma response. There are 5 trauma responses: fight, flight, freeze, flop and fawn, which I discuss more on another video in this channel in great detail. And fawning is the least known, but I would say one of the most common trauma responses that we all encounter. Now, if you think back to maybe one of the first times that you did have some conflict, perhaps at school or with a family member, maybe you were told off for something, probably felt quite humiliated. That's the effect that trauma has on us. It gives us shame and humiliation. And very understandably, we don't really want to feel like that again. So what happens is our inner critic, that old friend, the little devil on our shoulder, sits there going, oh, don't say that. Oh no, don't do that thing. Oh, let it pass. Or do you really need to enter into that conversation? Or maybe it wasn't so bad what they said or what they did. And we just try and keep ourselves balanced and away from falling into anything close to conflict, because conflict can activate our system. It can send us into those triggered trauma responses, of which fawn might be one of them. Now, your inner critic is the gatekeeper to prevent us from going into some of the trauma responses. It doesn't want us to feel shame. It doesn't want us to feel humiliated. So it places in these people-pleasing behaviours to try and keep us safe. So the next time you find yourself perhaps in a relationship system in your life that you often see yourself people-pleasing, maybe explore a little bit more about the fear, the discomfort that you have about what conflict would mean in that system. And have a look at that relationship with conflict in your own life, and perhaps where you've needed to fawn before to keep yourself safe. As I discuss in the other videos, your system does not know the difference between fawning, freezing, flight, fight, or flop, which when we simply pass out, it will select one for you in that moment that is best designed to keep you safe. And quite often in modern society and systems that we find ourselves in, fawning is actually the most socially acceptable trauma response to be able to get through our working day. So many of us are burnt out. So many of us are just existing. So many of us are surviving, frankly, on thin air. And so what we find ourselves doing a lot is fawning just to keep going, just to keep things together. I know how that feels myself. I've experienced a huge burnout in my life, trying to spin so many plates, and you find yourself fawning in systems because you simply don't have another response available to you in that time, even though you know that some of these behaviours that people are presenting do not suit you. I'm not saying that conflict is always a conduit that you would choose, but I am saying that fawning is a very real trauma response, and the inner critic is working alongside that to try and keep you safe and try and prevent us from finding ourselves in that space so that we don't feel shame or humiliation.